Hey everyone. Wait a few seconds here. Let's see if anybody hops on. I don't know that anyone will. I'm going to apologize now because this is probably going to be a long one. I'll do my best to keep it short and sweet, but yeah, no promises. In fact, so if you like have to be somewhere, watch as long as you can, I guess, and just put it on pause or save the video to your saved posts folder, whatever you call it. Come back and finish it up later. Kind of as I alluded to in my previous video while I was down on my walk. I wanted this one to be about the hows and the whys that I joined It Works, and at the same time talk about how I came to accept my transgender status. So, and I do use the term transgender because it is an umbrella term that covers male to female, female to male, non-binary. I believe intersex is in there. Gender fluid is in there, but we'll get to that. So basically, if you're watching this on the replay, do comment replay so that I know that you were here. Back in 2012, do we want to go that far back? Probably not, but just as a focal point of reference, in 2012 I discovered gynecomastia, and I spent the next several years going through tests, doctor visits, checking my thyroid, all sorts of things to try to determine what had caused my breasts to grow, which, if you weren't aware, gynecomastia is breast growth in men. So year after year after year went by, never really could find any answers, but they did continue to develop. So now, first off, before we continue any further, you may be thinking, guys get boobs all the time. There's man boobs are a thing, as they get older, it's just something that happens. These are not traditional man boobs. Man boobs kind of sag a little bit, Now these are actually developing into firm, perky breasts. So let's go from there. In 2017, I came across some more information as I would tend to put my site off or my search for info off for a while, out of sight, out of mind type of thing, when I would kind of get tired of coming up empty. And I came up with this one video on YouTube, I believe it was. It was an interview with someone who had been exposed to DES in their when in utero, when they were pre-birth. DES, if you don't know, stands for diethylstilbestrol. I believe is how you say it. It's a long name. And it was a drug, synthetic hormone, that was given to pregnant women between 1938 and 1971, I believe. That was supposed to prevent miscarriages. Let's just say it didn't work. And this thing had a whole myriad of additional side effects. One such side effect that caught my attention when I discovered this video, my first instinct, by the way, was to just say, That's not what I've got. That's not me. But I watched it anyway, and one such side effect that caught my attention was gynecomastia. Oh, okay. Well, let's listen a little further. So I listened and watched as this person that they were interviewing on this TV news station in Florida, as this person basically described my life as to the things that they went through, all because of a direct link to DES. Now look, some of you with medical experience out there can say, oh, it's pure coincidence. That's not, there's no proven link, blah, 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 blah. This isn't going to make you transgender. Folks, 20% of the men born to women who took this drug ended up transgender. 20%. All right, so let's put that part aside, okay? So I did my research, and so this was the information. Everything keeps coming back to that. I talked to my sister. Other friends of my mom don't remember her ever taking it, but you know, this could have been something that you just didn't want to tell people. I don't know. So anyway, I had convinced myself that I had been exposed. As far as I'm concerned, I was been exposed to DES in the womb while my mother was pregnant with me. So at that point, I had a doctor's appointment with my nurse practitioner in March of 2018. At that point, I had also been doing some research on keto dieting and all that because I knew that I needed to lose weight. But when I went to go to my doctor appointment that day, I told her what I had discovered about DES and how I tied her to that. I told her that was the only thing that I could tie it back to. I have no explanation why. We had been wondering why I was developing breasts for years. And when that's the only thing I can fall back on, you know, what's it? Is it Occam's razor or something like that? I think that said. I can't even remember how that goes now, but I was running out of options. So I told her, I said, that being said, I told her that I wanted to pursue male to female transition, or hormone therapy for male to female transition, because the people that I had talked to, other victims of DES who were transgender, had told me that was the treatment for the brain fog and for everything else was the hormone therapy. Playing devil's advocate, I asked them, okay, so I don't have therapy. What does that do? And they're like, it gets worse. So I made the conscious decision to pursue this. And in doing so, I told my doctor, I mean, she just like, oh, okay. She was not expecting me to say that when I came in there that day. I went through all the hoops of talking to therapists, talking to doctors, talking to, once I got my approval from the therapist, going and speaking to an endocrinologist, who would eventually prescribe the hormones. Which I went through a lot at that point in time, rationalizing and accepting what it was that I was actually doing, what I would be doing. Now this was, like I said, started in March of 18. At that point in time in my life, I'd also started keto dieting. In the first 3 months, I lost between 20 and 30 pounds. Over the next 3 months, things began to plateau, but I did lose about 30 pounds total at the beginning on keto dieting. So, with that going on, and all the hormone therapy, well, which actually, now let me take this back here, because let's back up to June, was my first appointment with the endocrinologist. She wasn't so sure. She was not convinced. She did not see the link to DES, and she was very hesitant to prescribe hormone therapy to me. Needless to say, I left that appointment very upset, very disappointed, because in my mind I knew that I needed that. I knew that that was what was going to have to happen for me to get past some of these other issues that were coming up on me. I had a train there that was where that thought was going. Oh yeah, she wanted to see the dysphoria. Now, I firmly believe that a transgender person does not require dysphoria in order to be transgender. However, I also believe that trans people do experience dysphoria without recognizing it. They don't know that that's what it is that they're feeling. So I had to do research. I had to go back in my mind. I had to go back to the therapist, and I had to identify forms of dysphoria. One of the things that my therapist told me was that to get rid of the dysphoria, that my inner girl, my inner woman, my feminine side needed to be nurtured. Well, this is when all hell started to really break loose with me. These are the things that I didn't necessarily tell my wife about, because that's when things really started to take hold. I had developed a name, well, previously, quite a while back, I had developed a name for my feminine side. I had been considering for a long time. One name that popped up was Jennifer. That was a name, it's actually one of my first crushes in high school. Her name was Jenny. And so I like that name. However, I do know other Jennies in my life, and I do work with a girl named Jennifer. So I didn't want to use a name that was already taken by someone I currently knew. I had also considered the name Vanessa, who was a girl that I had a crush on in junior high school, like 8th or 9th grade, I believe it was, before I had moved from California to Missouri. And I don't remember what it was, why I didn't select that name. But I did go with, I eventually chose the name Paige, because I had decided that I was turning a page in my life. And so that's why I wanted to go with that. So anyway, I knew that Paige needed to be nurtured. This was a time in my life that I really, really started to hate Paige. By extension, I was hating myself too, because the control that Paige was starting to have over my life, I could not be my male self anymore. I could not wear my male clothing, my traditional male clothing that I had always worn. And now I felt it was silly, because a shirt is a shirt is a shirt. You know, it's not that big a deal. It shouldn't be that big a deal. The same shirts that I had been wearing for years, suddenly I could not even begin to put on. I could put it on for all of 3 seconds just to see if it still fit. And if it didn't fit, it went to Goodwill. But I could not wear my old masculine clothes anymore. I can now. I've gotten through that aspect of my life. But I could not do it. The same with looking in the mirror. If I did not like what I saw in the mirror, if my hair did not look right, if I looked too masculine, if I needed to shave, sometimes I could get so upset or get such a mental state that I knew I wouldn't even be able to leave the house that day. If I went to Walmart and was called sir by the checkout lady, by the checkout person, I found myself fighting back tears on the way home, especially if I was by myself. I fought to hide that so badly from my wife, and she never knew that. I think I did a good enough job of hiding that. Hey, Tiffany. I'm dishing out rounds of truth, so I'm sorry if you have to hear some of this. But yeah, it was finding the dysphoria that I had to learn to live with before I could really get to who I was and who I am. Fortunately, I'm coming upon the end of that part of it, so if you feel like watching the replay, go right ahead. But I do know that there was a lot that I had to face in my life before I came to terms and came to truth of who I was. The gender fluidity is what my therapist decided, or she felt that would be a term. She didn't want to label me, but she did feel that was a term that suited me best. And actually, that's a term that my wife can live with. She doesn't like the idea of transgender because to her that means switching completely. Being gender fluid, I'm actually I see myself as more of a 70-30. I can actually wear some of my male clothes now when I need to, but I lean and favor heavily to the feminine side. So that said, I can fast forward now to that summer of 18, September, when there was a clothing drive. I had joined a support group in Muncie called Finding Spirit, that I could go in and deal with a lot of the stuff that I was feeling and talk to people and meet people who were like me, and learn other ways to deal. Anyway, there was a clothing drive that was held for people to swap, and for trans people who could pick up some free clothing items that would help them, that were more aligned them closely to their gender identity. So at that point in time, I also learned about makeover classes. Now I'm going to tell you, I always, from the first time I heard the possibility that I could become transgender or that I would be gender fluid, I knew that this was the makings of one ugly chick. Okay, there's just nothing there. So anyway, I'd gotten referrals from people to go to Sephora at the Muncie Mall because they did makeover classes, including some for transgender people. Sorry. So after our clothing drive, I decided to go up to Sephora and at least get information on starting a skincare program, because I was having issues with blotchiness and dryness of my skin and all that. So I went up there, and I got, my nerves hit me, because I knew I was also going to talk about makeover stuff and learn about that too. I paced around outside in the mall for a good 5-10 minutes before I went inside. I took a deep breath, And I went in, I heard in my head, trust. So that was when I took the breath and I said, all right, I'm going to do this. I went in and I didn't see anybody at first, but there were 3 people up at the counter. So I went inside and I asked for the woman who I'd been told to ask for, who was not there. That girl was out that day. So I told them what I needed. I said, all right, here we go. That I needed information on skincare. And 2 of the 3 people said, oh, well, you want Heather. She's your girl. Oh, okay. So Heather turns around. She introduced herself to me, and with her happy voice, asked what she, how she could help. So I told her what I needed. Was talking about the skincare. She goes, oh, sure, right over here. And she took me over to their products and told me about what they did and what she thought I could use. Asked me some questions. Definitely put me very much at ease. I felt very comfortable talking to her. And so that was when I decided, all right. I started asking her about the makeovers. And she says, oh, okay, no problem. And she goes, they did offer that. They did offer the classes for transgendered. And she told me what they did with that, what was available, what I could do about with free sessions. They had another session that was available. It was free if there was a $50 purchase involved. So my skincare products that I was buying came to over $50, so I'm like, that was going to qualify me. And I came back 2 weeks later for the makeover. Now, if you have not seen the images, the pictures from the makeover session, I was proven wrong, because she absolutely made me look very beautiful. So I was proven wrong. I admit it. So that said, after all of that, Heather then later added me on Facebook. She posted a video that night of how the makeover session affected her, and trust me, I was very touched and moved by it. And so we became friends. She added me on Facebook, and we chatted here and there. Till one day she made a post about keto coffee, and she showed pictures of her own weight loss products weight loss progress after about 30 days. Oh, hey, I love keto. I was still doing it. I wasn't really having much luck with it, but I was doing it. Because I figured I had plateaued. I would just have to go find some way to get over that or ride it out. Heather told me about the keto coffee and the chocolate greens, and my first question was, what is a chocolate green? And she explained to me that it was a powder form of 52 superfoods, vitamins, minerals, how healthy it was for you. It was a good way to get your greens. And I'm just usually, for the most part, was not a green vegetable person. But by making this into this chocolate form and adding it to coffee, which I wasn't a coffee drinker either, but all right, we'll give it a shot. She said the words then at that point that I've learned to follow. Same words that I had heard back that day at the mall. Trust me. She hadn't steered me wrong yet. I like to think that God put me in her path that day. By telling me to trust, by putting that word in my head, and me getting the strength and the courage to go inside and talk to her and to follow my path, to do what I needed to do, what I needed myself to do, and her telling me to trust. It just reiterated that. And so that stuck with me. And I got to tasting the chocolate and coffee together, and it was absolutely heavenly. It was wonderful. So I stuck with that for a couple of months. And then by then, It Works came out with a TFX product, the Thermophyte X. and the talk was lose 30 pounds in 90 days. Okay, so let's try it, and that worked. In the first month that I used it, I lost 9 more pounds. I was definitely um, off of the plateau, and so my weight come down to about, I wanted to get down to 175. I got it down to 177, and so that was enough proof for me. The end of July or the end of January, Heather then asked me how the products were going, how I liked them, and if I would like to do what she did. Yes, please. That was how I pretty much got in tune with the business. It wasn't something that I jumped into immediately or overnight. It was something that I was exposed to the products, and I learned to love and trust. I became the product of the products, and I saw firsthand how they worked. So that's pretty much what got me there. And to this day, I am a product of the products. I will not push something that doesn't work. And I have tried many, many, many products, as you have seen by my posts, that I have made over time. So all I can say is, if you have any interest or any thought or inkling that you might be interested in any of the products I talk about, that I post about, guys, trust me. I'm not going to steer you wrong on it. I'm going to tell you what I know. I'm going to tell you my own experiences, and I'm going to share with you the experiences of people that I know. So definitely don't hold back. If there's something that you want to try, just do what I did. Take a deep breath, trust, and contact me. Let's talk. Let's see what we can do for you. Guys, I have taken up so much of your time today. If you have stuck with this whole thing, and I don't think anyone has, God bless you. This business has done so much for me. It's given me back my faith. It's made me a stronger, more positive person. It's given me the strength and courage to open up about my transgender and gender fluidity status, and the courage and strength to accept it and just to be who I am. That's not going to change. People will come and go in our lives, and if they can't deal with that, then they can't deal. That's their issues. So yeah, thank you so much. Again, I love you all. Be sure and comment replay in the comments if you have watched the replay on this, if you've come in late. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Thank you. Bye.